So anyway, the point is Collision, part of it aired. Unfortunately, Dynamite on May 21st, all of it aired. From Albuquerque. They should have taken a left turn, Brian. At Albuquerque. They would have come up a better.
It would have ended up in Cucamonga.
Oh boy. Yeah, Cucamonga was all over this show. The opening segment was a face-to-face interview with Hangman, Adam Page, and Will Ospreay. And all I've got to say to you folks out there who were fortunate enough not to have witnessed this marathon therapy session, as the kids say, is that Uncle Dave Meltzer thought that this was the most brilliant thing ever, made them both look like stars, and was probably the best face-off this year. That's what I've heard
serious?
him quoted at. Yes.
No, he did not say that.
Yeah, and he didn't even qualify best AEW face-off. Like all that shit with Punk and Drew and all that other stuff.
Not only was this not any of those, but it also won worst haircut.
Oh, Tony Schiavone, who's supposed to be the interviewer, introduces both these guys and then hands off the microphone and stands in the corner like a schmo while they start talking. And once that they have said they're not going to fight, then he just gets out of the ring. Like he was just waiting to make sure he didn't have to fucking exert his authority. And then they let these two twits have their dramatic rendition in the ring with the spotlight just on the two of them, where they try and fail to have this, again, dramatic story behind this that, good God, Ospreay's trying the folksy comedy that falls flat. He wants to have a beer with Paige, but Paige doesn't know where to trust him or not. And it's just over-scripted, rotten material about shit that only these indie level, minded fans could possibly get into. And with the dramatic and flowery verbiage that they've come up with in their minds where they think they're Shakespeare. And it's bad enough when they've got not only allegedly professional writers, but also big stars in wrestling that can talk, delivering dramatic shit in the WWE. But when it's two fucking nitwits that make their own shit up, and by virtue of a billionaire not being able to yank a knot in anybody's tail and take control of his business, they're just allowed to go out there and drone on for 20 minutes. Holy fuck. Ospreay really wants to win the title. He wants to bring it home. And he wants to be the main event with Paige at Double or Nothing, even though they got to follow the anarchy in the arena, Matt. Like, that's going to be hard to follow. And he wants to go on and win the title at the stadium because he starts complaining about his 15-hour flight every week. Every week, mate, I'm jet lagged on Tuesdays. And I'm away from move to the country you work in, dipshit. He leaves his 6-year-old every Tuesday. And I've said there's people that got more problems than taking a 15-hour round trip flight once a fucking week and leaving your 6-year-old to make a couple $1 million a year. But they can't figure they're trying to be members of the common people. And at the same time, people are looking at him going, you're getting paid to do this shit?
He just hasn't met the right realtor yet.
And he knows how bad that Hanger wants it, but he wants it just a little bit more. And at least Ospreay tries to have, as a matter of fact, he tries too hard. But he tries to have some oomph to him. But as somebody on Twitter said, his voice sounds like a garbage disposal with a British accent. But then when Paige comes back, he's got the memorized material that he delivers in a stagey way, in a stilted, stiff and unnatural way with lots of big words that if he does use in real life, he shouldn't. And they're enunciated correctly. And he says, well, it's business with you, Ospreay. With me, it's personal. That sounds familiar. I just heard that on the other channel not long ago. And Page, when he starts yelling, he looks like he's going to cry. And he's venting about Christmas morning when I saw my son, or my son saw me staring out the window looking for someone that would never come back. What the fuck is this? Is this goddamn Summer of 42 bullshit? And he said, my wife pities me. I pity her. And he went on forever about wanting to make everybody proud of him. I need to know there's some kind of light at the end of this 2-year tunnel through hell. And I'm like, they're talking about this bullshit about I want it more than you do. I want to be the champion mate. Instead of goddamn, people have real problems. This was not a 2-year tunnel through hell, except for the people that were watching you on television. It was hell on them. I wrote, this is some soft, pussy-ass Lifetime movie shit here. And then Ospreay promised to show up Sunday and do his best. And they yelled some more. It wouldn't end. It was a scene from a Backyard Wrestling Federation production on VHS. And finally, Ospreay got a pop when he got bleeped for saying fuck. But this... 20 minutes.
What about the beer? What about the beer?
And then they drank a bunch of beer aggressively at each other.
What do you think of that? Because they had the awkwardness of he gives Page the beer, and of course we know Page has a drinking problem. The character of Hangman Page has a drinking problem. So
he drank it anyway.
My wife hates me. My wife hates me.
Yes, this is not, we want to hear problems about you screwed me out of the title. You fucking stabbed me in the back. The ordinary shit that wrestlers are supposed to get mad about, not, oh, all these people, my reputation, whatever the fuck this shit's about. And they want to talk like it's real when their fans know above all others that it's all phony as a football bat. And instead of concentrating on coming up with all this material to make people think that it's the insiders, that it's all a shoot, they ought to concentrate on their performance, because that tells me it's bullshit. Did you see anything that I didn't? And the haircuts. My God.
Well, Adam Page kind of got that haircut a ways back, and now it still looks as douchey as it did when he got it. But Ospreay, with the conversation being how he needs to dress like a star and be a star if they're going to pay him like a star, and there's a chance the fans will treat him like one, why not be one? Again, he comes out there just dressed like, anyone, but the haircut. It was like a fresh bowl haircut, parted in the middle. It was ridiculous. I couldn't take this whole thing at all seriously.
Wait, so
what are they arguing about? They're arguing about nothing. Well,
that's the point. There's no substance to this. It's just who's outperforming the other guy for the benefit of all these fans. That's what they all fucking are on at the end in various ways. And it's just... Anywho, that was the first segment, but now we got to go to the wrestling, Brian. And they brought out the heavy hitters, the big guns. A 6-man tag team match with Dick the Boozer and the Buckaroos against Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Swerve Strickland. And even they're in Albuquerque in like a theater of some kind. And it's on a street that there wasn't a fucking car going past. There wasn't a bystander. They've got the Boozer and Marina Schaefer out on an empty street, and then they walk in the door through the empty outer building. And Moxley is just blathering nonsense while he's doing that and punched himself in the fucking chin. And then he comes through the building. So they waste 5 minutes on this.
While the 10 people who were buying concessions just stand there and watch.
Yes, that's the thing is you pass more people in my front yard than he did from the time he went out on the street. And it looks like they're nowhere. Why did they do that? So then here came the Cucamonga kids to no reaction as usual. And they start this match, and from the bell, it goes 20 more minutes after they've done these entrances. And you know the drill. Everybody did a bunch of moves. And finally, Swerve pinned one of the Hardley boys. So that took 20 minutes to get to that point. Then here comes Wheeler Useless and Claudio, and the heels beat up the babyface. Marina Shafir beat up Nana. God damn it. They've done nothing. They never did anything to establish Nana as a manager that had any competence whatsoever. And now even the women just beat him up. He can't do anything. Nana is a black man from fucking New York. Certainly he could be even for 30 seconds with Marina Shafir, even if she's a goddamn judo expert. One would think.
He's a former wrestler.
Well, being a wrestler don't mean you're tough anymore, but still he's from New York, for heaven's sake. You got to
Queens.
From Queens, see? He used to live next door to Eddie Murphy. It's a bad neighborhood. You got to be able to take care of yourself. Anyway, then Shapoopy came in with the phoniest shit of the night. Did you see this?
I did. I watched this whole thing. I was entranced by it. Yeah.
When everything he did was just like a parody of what wrestling is. It was so see-through. And then Shafir came in and nutted him. So then they played music. And Willow came running down to the ring. As fast as Willow was running, by the time she got to the ring, both her eyes were black. And she started doing running spots with Marina Shafir. And she threw a bunch of fake blows of various kinds. And then more music played. And here came Kenny. And he got in the ring and did a few moves. And then he made a face. And then he pointed. And then he skipped. And then he hit the ropes. And he hit one of the buckaroos with a fake knee lift. And then he pointed again. And Swerve pulled out a table. And Kenny tried to put one of the bucks through it. And Claudio saved him. And the heels were bailing out. And Joe cut a promo on him and got a big pop when he said fuck, and it got bleeped. And so from entrances through all this chaos at the end, it was 30 minutes. And then I don't want to skip ahead and ruin the chronology, but Joe's promo was a sane man would wait till next weekend, but I'm not a sane man. So the threat was a very veiled, almost disguised threat was that they're going to kick the shit out of him some more later on tonight. But they waited not only until after the main event, which we'll get to, and I'm pretty sure drove away a significant portion of the viewing audience, but into the overrun. Before then, all the guys in this garbage match came back, got in another fight. Now with what's the name of the guy that keeps coming out now and interfering?
Oh, Gabe Kidd.
Gabe Kidd, who looks like Josh Alexander to me. Are they separated from birth? Twin brothers from another mother? There's a lot of guys with
that look right now. At least Josh Alexander has the headgear to separate himself.
Well, the point is, these fucking guys they got in another fight. They broke a bunch of furniture again. They fought all over the place. They put multiple people through tables to promote, allegedly, this garbage match that they're going to have with 5 or 6 guys on each side where they do all this shit and they fight in the arena. They've already done the match. But with all of this, I've said before, you fucking blithering idiots. You shoot the angle fighting in the arena, you have the match in the ring. The angle is we get out of control and we fight all over the place for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever, just enough to tease people and get them up. And then you book the match and you have most of that in the fucking ring. But the problem is these guys can't have a match in the ring. So they've done 5 or 10 minutes here all over the arena with furniture and chairs and jumping and diving and pointing and gesticulating and farting about. And then they're going to come back at the pay-per-view that they want people to pay for, and they're going to do all this same shit for twice or 3 times as long. What the...
With music.
With music. And what the fuck is their deal? You've just given them the shit that they're supposed to pay for free. The baby faces would come up once, then the heels are up, and then the baby faces are up, and blah, blah, blah. But all the furniture gets broken, and you ain't going to do anything different.
Yeah, it's one thing to go off the air Mid-South Wrestling, or more appropriately, UWF style, where everyone who's going to be in that match is brawling, and you go off the air, you get like 30 seconds of it. This went on and on and on and on. This didn't stop.
And on.
This wouldn't end. And it became comical because of that.
And that's the audience that they're shooting for, is the people who want to laugh at phony wrestling, because elsewise they wouldn't be doing this. But as we've seen, the audience that wants to laugh at phony wrestling is limited. And it gets comical because it's so ridiculous, because they're out there doing all the shit that they think is fun, and that the little indie bubble that they live in is, they like that kind of thing. But it's just meaningless for drawing money or putting a program together where you're advancing personalities and making stars. It's just chaos with children. Now with children. Because anytime the Lollipop Guild is in it, even with guys like Samoa Joe and Hobbs, if you've got the Bucks in there, it's comedy to begin with. So we've been talking about what kind of money matches can they put together. They have none, because they concentrate on doing horse shit like this to appease these indie-minded nitwits that think that they're special, instead of making stars and putting matches together that'll draw money on a widespread basis. And they'll just gimmick it up.
But still, someone will get hurt. Every time, someone will get hurt.
Yes. And there's always the chance of that also. What do the kids call it, Brian? Are they tone deaf? They're tone deaf. They can't hear the tone of the room. They don't know that their shit is passé and overdone and blasé and boring. Is it tone deaf? Is that the word?
Tone loc.
I wonder if the MD hearing aids will help people that are tone deaf.
I didn't know where you were going. Now it makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense now, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know about the tone deaf, but yes.
Well, it depends on what kind of tones you're deaf to. Or if you're one of the deftones. Folks, did you know that MD Hearing recently cut their price in half, despite all of this inflation craziness going on in the world, because they have figured out a way to have finer quality apparatuses or apparati at lower prices, and they're making it up in volume. Because gas is expensive, food's expensive, everything's expensive. If you go try to get a hearing aid from a clinic or a hospital or some type of, one of these pop-up things that people operate out of the trunk of their cars on the corner, many times you will go up to a Plymouth or a Chrysler with a guy selling hearing aids out of the back of that.
Not many times.
And you'll get a good deal, but you will find out that they don't work as well or last as long as the folks at MD Hearing.
A Plymouth or a Chrysler? What year is this example taking place? But
this was back in the 70s. Old Grandpa John, he couldn't hear toward the end. And he got both the Chrysler and the Plymouth brand hearing aids, and they didn't help him at all. But folks, MD Hearing.
Yes, MD Hearing. Let's talk about them. They are
Yes. Great. They make high quality, easy to use, rechargeable hearing aids with exceptional sound quality that are personalized to your hearing profile. and they fit inside your ear. So nobody's even going to know it's there. We've mentioned this before. If they get close enough that they can see this hearing aid, you're allowed to punch them because they're invading your space.
You're not allowed to punch it. You have no authority to say that anyway, but you're not allowed
they'd have to be sitting on your shoulder. I mean, no court of law in the land would convict you if somebody gets close enough to you to get a good look at this MD hearing aid in your ear, at least an elbow in the ribs. Plus, MD Hearing has just launched the Neo XS, MD Hearing's smallest hearing aid ever. Never take it out, because if you take it out, it's so small, you'll never find it again.
Well, no, let's not say never take it out. Take it out when it's time to take it out.
No, because you always want to hear, what if you're sleeping in the middle of the night and somebody says, fire? If you ain't got your hearing aid in, you're going to be a crispy critter because you won't hear that.
Well, let's not say things that people are not supposed to do. I don't know if they're supposed to sleep.
Well, they're not supposed to sleep through a fire in a crowded theater.
A crowded theater?
Well, you're not supposed to yell fire in a crowded theater. You're not supposed to sleep through one either. MD Hearing is just as good as premium quality hearing aids that you see about all the time. $297 for a pair of hearing aids from MD Hearing. It's just crazy. That's and Edward S., you know him. He's been in the news. That's why he's not allowed to reveal his last name. He's in the Federal Witness Protection Program. He calls MD Hearing the best hearing aid I've used at any price. Edward was recently rescued from a desert island, and he hadn't heard anything for 40 years. But MD Hearing was founded by an ENT surgeon who saw how many of his patients needed hearing aids but couldn't afford them. Every time he'd go out in his waiting room there, he'd say, next, and nobody would stand up. He made it his mission. Stop it. You're laughing about serious.
It's very
serious. He made it his mission to develop a quality hearing aid that anyone could afford. And now when he goes out in his office and he says, next, they all stand up and jump him. MD Hearing sold over. They've sold.
They have sold to others, and they can sell to you for a great price.
Yes, 2 million times they've sold hearing aids to people. I wonder if it's different people.
Different people. There are multiple people. What am I defending here right now? I'm talking about great hearing aids for a great price, a new price just for you, a great deal from MD Hearing.
Yes, that's what it is. They offer a 45-day risk-free trial, 100% money-back guarantee. And when people are yelling at you now, you'll be able to hear it unless you turn them off. And that's your choice. Get the high-quality, affordable hearing aids you deserve with MD Hearing. Go to Shop MD Hearing, shopmdhearing.com, and use the promo code JCE to get a pair of hearing aids for just $297. That's $149 an ear, not even. So, Brian, if somebody came up to you and said, hey, if you don't give me $150, I'm going to make you deaf in one ear, you'd do it, wouldn't you?
Well, let's not use this kind of example, this kind of thuggery. Let's talk about the people at home who need a little boost, need to be able to hear a little better. A lot of us have hearing loss due to going to concerts and standing near giant amplifiers. MD Hearing, a great resource for you.
Or Pyro in TNA's little closet they used to shoot in. And they got a free extra charging case, which is $100 value, is going to come along with the ride for that $297. And again, $150 an ear. What would be the price on your left or right nut? And which are you more fond of, your nuts or your ears?
Again,
if you want to spend $600, you can take care of your ears and your nuts.
Listen, let's get to
your
the
nuts
nuts
if you
and
don't
bolts
take
of
care of
this.
your hearing.
Let's get to the nuts and bolts, and that is a great deal for the listeners who need a little help with their hearing. It's one of the senses.
Yes, you're nuts. You're nuts if you don't go to shopmdhearing.com and use the promo code JCE to get a pair of hearing aids and a free extra charging case, $100 value for just $297. You can't, it's like a sore dick and a busted drum. You can't beat it.
Your senses will be working overtime. MD hearing. One more time, Jim. What's that? Special code.
Well, now, if you get your senses to work overtime, they're going to want more money. But go to shopmdhearing.com and use the promo code JCE. That's how you're going to get into all this stuff here. But now I'm not sure about the overtime.
Oh, there's that transition music that we've all come to know.
Yes, I'm already headed that way. We had, again, the reliable segment of the AEW programs are usually the Hurt Syndicate and the MJF appearances where MJF's trying to get into the group and etc. And they did a good job here, but they got interrupted. I will back up. The Hurt Syndicate and their lawyer was in the ring, and hey, did you notice that old Mark Sterling was actually halfway straight? Didn't fucking throw in the goddamn, comedy and the Ritz Brothers act, and it was kind of
the Ritz Brothers,
as legitimate as he could be. But the Hurts and their lawyer were in the ring, and Mark Sterling was in the ring. He brought MJF out for the big induction. And MJF not only was cutting a promo, he was doing good, but MVP was feeling saucy. He healed on the crowd. They blistered Albuquerque. MVP has not really been that much of an outright heel to people on TV, but in this case...
Yeah, Albuquerque and Brian Keith.
Yes. Those are two of his favorites.
That's right.
And Big Bill, yeah. But again, they both blistered Albuquerque and the fans, and Sterling didn't fuck it up. And everybody had signed except Bobby Lashley, the agreement. Then Bobby was thinking about it and reading it and conferring it. And the crowd was all over this. They were really reacting. The crowd was into it, where they're just thinking about signing a paper. Because it's actually something they can follow. It's a logical, sensible thing that's happening. And finally, Bobby signed, and boom, and like I said, the crowd's all over him, and then music plays, and here's the rub. Here's the problem. Here comes Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara again. And in the ring, you've got big-time heels. You got the tag team champions, Lashley and Benjamin. You've got MJF. You got MVP, who has a somewhat of stature and cachet in the industry, a reputation for... And here comes the Mid-Card Express. Because, yeah, I'm appreciative of Dustin's talents, but he's about where he's going to be now. The people know he's there to have a good match with the kids and put people over. And Sammy's there because he got punished off of the big TV because he was a dick. And they're not top guys. And this match is not going to sell a fucking ticket or a buy or a view or whatever the fuck. But now, and Dustin did the whole interview while Sammy just stared there and gawked. And Dustin again was trying really hard, too hard. He can talk, but he had no material here and he went too long. I mean, at one point he said the first Double or Nothing was an unforgettable night you're never going to forget. And only time will tell if we stand the test of time. And then his whole thing, we were here at day one. The day one guys. So 6 years later, we're in the same position, and in Sammy's case, worse, is what they might as well say. And they're standing there already wearing tag team title belts, and they're barking at the guys in the ring that they want their belts because everybody's got belts. So visually, a lot of people who don't live their lives over this thing is going to say, well, what's the fucking difference? And who cares? It's just, they've got nobody credible to work with their tag team champions, except their other tag team champions that are tag team champions of a fictitious promotion that doesn't really exist. And this is what they're spending national TV time on. Help me understand, Brian.
I'm actually really into Sammy Guevara's new gimmick, which is like, I fucked up, so now I wear a suit. That classic babyface move to show you that I'm a changed person. I wear a suit every week. I like Dustin's fire, and I always do. But, in a week where a lot of things went way too long, he was given way too much time on the mic here. Every time he gets on the mic, you're happy to hear from him, and then you start thinking, maybe he's the heel. The more he talks, you're like, maybe he's not the babyface here. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, pay-per-views this weekend, they needed a match. And I guess...
think about that. They needed a match, the pay-per-views this weekend. The tag team champions. That's the level of intricacy that is going into this booking. All righty then. Did you see the contest between, we just mentioned Anthony Bowens the other day. Where's he been? Well, he was back and Billy Gunn's still in his corner. Caster is still on the missing persons list, but Bowens versus Ricochet. I could have gone for this if they put Bowens over. But Ricochet hit him in the head with Bowens made a comeback. Ricochet rolled out on the floor, reached under the ring when Bowens tried to get him. Ricochet had the golden shears, a pair of gold painted scissors, and stabbed Bowens in the head with the scissors. And there was no blood or no hole in his head. He stabbed him in the head with the scissors. And Bowens sold it like, oh. And then Ricochet hit his little clothesline finish on him. The scissors being stabbed in his head wasn't enough. The clothesline was what finished him off. It was a horrible finish, poorly executed. Why? If he was a tailor or a quilt maker, maybe then scissors should be his gimmick. But
the quilt maker? You know what?
Quilt maker.
In this case, it actually works if you're finishing Bowens up. His whole thing was scissor me. And then Ricochet scissored him. And
son of a bitch. You're right. He scissored him, Daddy. And the thing is, that is actually kind of cute. And they didn't even think of it themselves. He'd been using the scissors independently of the Acclaimed.
Right. It wasn't building up to this.
No, it just was out of nowhere because he used scissors before on other people. And then Ricochet leaves the ring, but Mark Briscoe comes out wheeling a gurney. They're going to have a stretcher match, Brian, between Mark Briscoe and Ricochet. And again, do you know the reason why that they decided to book a stretcher match between Ricochet and Mark Briscoe? Yeah, this was reported by Uncle Dave, who's the mouth organ for Tony Khan.
Actually, I have no idea why. I was wondering that.
Because the first time that Tony Khan's father, when he was a little kid, little teeny tiny baby, took him to see wrestling outside of Illinois, where they lived, it was the ECW arena, and Sabu was at a stretcher match. So naturally, that means that Ricochet and fucking Mark Briscoe need to be in a stretcher match this week on the pay-per-view.
I think it's more likely that Tony saw Elegante versus Sid Vicious in a stretcher match.
Well, I have a feeling that
no one left on a stretcher. Where Sid lost without losing on a stretcher.
No, he got on the stretcher, and then as soon as they called it, he stood up and walked out. But I think that one will be better than this one because from what I heard, I try to block the commentators out, but I believe they said the winner is going to be the first person to put the guy on the stretcher, wheel him out of the arena, put him in the ambulance, and close the door like a coffin match or a goddamn casket match.
Oh.
But if that's the case, then the first time they go in the back, they're pretty much going to have to stay there unless they come back out to the ring and wrestle longer and then take a few more trips, which means it's just going to be full-on garbage from the start to the finish. So that's which they've already got a full-on start-to-finish garbage match in the multiple-man arena assholes match. And then, so yeah, this is going to be really bad. Did I miss anything about Bowens and Ricochet before we move on to the main event?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, well, I should. It's a double main event. There was a main event face-to-face confrontation and then a main event match. The main event face-to-face confrontation was Renee Moxley Good in the ring with Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Moon. And I wrote, oh, fuck no. I've got shit to do, and it doesn't include watching Mercedes Moan do a bad audition for her acting reel. Which, when I stopped to listen to a little bit of it in the middle, was what she was doing. Has there ever been a worse promo, a more phony individual, apparently in real life as well as on television, than Mercedes Moon? She thinks she's goddamn Greta Garbo. And I mean, it's just, this is the girl that can't find her way out of the woods by her own admission.
Well, according to Monet Mag.
According to Monet Mag, which she apparently is the ghostwriter for.
Yeah, apparently she's the publisher, the editor, the head writer, everything.
And so, anyway, they did that. And poor Jamie Hayter, again, looking like a fucking fluorescent fucking gummy bear. And then the main event wrestling match was Mina Mellons versus Julia Hart, with Tony Storm sitting next to the announcers, slipping in what they allegedly call commentary. That was it. That was the main event. They think because they're teasing, they have done a light tease of all of these idiots getting back together for a reprise of their garbage match, that they will sit through Mina Mellons and Julia Hart. I can't wait to hear the ratings. I don't know anything ahead of time. But that went over to the overrun, and then the aforementioned, we talked about it earlier, they had the reprise of the 10-man garbage match fellows with more furniture. But they just gave up for the previous 20 minutes with between the segment with Mercedes and Jamie and the segment with Mina and Julia. Everybody else had moved on, had they not?
Well, you would think maybe that they didn't put their best effort forward because they knew they were up against game one of the Knicks versus the Pacers. However, that wouldn't explain bringing back everyone they brought back for the very end of the show for the very long segment. I was surprised how much time they gave this, and it came on the back of the Mercedes Moné Jamie Hayter in ring. We'll see. I haven't looked at the ratings yet either, so this will be surprising.
Well, in that case, Brian, unless you have any punctuation to put on this review of this program, let's see if anybody watched it and where they decided to take mercy on themselves and end the insanity.
All right, Jim. Well, I have the numbers here. AEW Dynamite on TBS. Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. 8 to 10:08 p.m. On average, watched by 575,000 viewers.
Ouch, I believe they were well over 600 last week, so for that big cage match, so they've gone back down to reality this week.
682 last week. 4-week average, 615. So down off both. Again, Knicks versus Pacers was on the sister channel, TNT. And of course, lots of other action-packed activities on TV.
Do you really think that people who are predisposed to watch the Knicks and the Pacers in the NBA Finals are also predisposed to watch Julia Hart and Mina Mellons?
Well, that was why during that match I ended up turning it off and going to the Knicks game, and I returned on DVR the next morning to see the end of the show.
Well, where did we start, Brian?
Well, the quarter-hour breakdown here, Jim. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Adam Page Will Ospreay live promo. 714,000 viewers.
Okay, and that is, again, as we've said, lower than they normally start at. But last week, they started a little bit higher, but they kept it. I don't see how they're going to keep much of this and make their average. So I have a feeling that there will be some attrition going forward.
Well, we go to quarter two, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m., the continuation of Page and Ospreay in the ring,
Longer.
and the start of Jon Moxley and the Young Bucks versus Swerve Strickland and the Ops with picture-in-picture, 644,000 viewers.
Well, there went 70,000 people, but normally when the Buckaroos appear on the screen, there's for the next quarter, there's some element of channel changing, and they've already dropped quite a bit. Are they going further, or did they settle into a pattern here?
Well, we go to quarter three, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m., continuation of Moxley and the Bucks versus Swerve and the Ops with picture-in-picture, 608,000 viewers.
Oh, okay. So just to clarify, they put in two of the EVPs, the Lollipop Guild, the Cucamonga Kids, and the world champion, Dick the Boozer. And on the opposite side was a former champion, Samoa Joe, and a former champion, Swerve Strickland, and poor old Hobbs. And that star power lost them 36,000 viewers.
Well, we go now.
Oogie doogie.
We go now to quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The continuation of Moxley and the Bucks versus Swerve and the Ops. The post-match with the Death Riders, Kenny Omega, Willow Nightingale, and that's it. The MJF and the Hurt Syndicate and Smart Mark Sterling backstage angle, an ad break, and the start of the Hurt Syndicate MJF contract signing live angle.
Yeah, the backstage angle was just a promo where they said we're coming up on about to do the goddamn contract deal. So there was no angle involved, but it was the story.
627,000 viewers.
And there comes 19,000 poor souls back because all of a sudden here comes the Hurt Syndicate and MJF, I would imagine, because they're the only thing different than what people tuned out previously. But now we come to the top of the hour and the Hurt Syndicate MJF in the ring.
We come to the top of the hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m. And again, I think they were in the ring at the end of the previous quarter.
Yes.
The big 9 o'clock hour, the Hurt Syndicate, MJF, Mark Sterling, Dustin Rhodes, Sammy Guevara live angle. The Okada backstage promo, an ad break, and the start of Ricochet versus Anthony Bowens.
I must mention Okada now has unbleached his hair. It's brown hair, so he looks even more fucking like a normal schmo than he used to. And he didn't say bitch. So there you go.
557,000 viewers, bitch.
Oh, Christ. Well, that's 70,000 more people. Good heavens. One would suppose that after they saw Sammy and Dustin come out and or then went into the rest there, they're like, well, fuck it. I mean,
maybe once they realized Black Adam wasn't coming on, they changed the channel.
Boy, that's disheartening.
Well, we go now to quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The continuation of Ricochet versus Bowens with picture-in-picture, and the post-match with Mark Briscoe, followed by an ad break. 518,000 viewers.
Good night. They got to pick something up or they're not going to be able to make their average unless my math is off, but they've only got 2 quarters and an overrun. The overrun may be suspect, but go ahead.
We go now to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Stokely Hathaway FTR backstage promo.
I didn't pay attention.
Followed by the Jamie Hayter Mercedes Moné live angle, and then an ad break. 501,000 viewers.
Okay. They're down 213,000 people, and they've got Mina Mellons and Tony's, not Tony, but Julia coming up. So are they going under 400?
Well, again, a lot of competition. The Knicks. Well, we go now to quarter 8.
Fucking air, water.
We go now to quarter 8. I remind you, we have an 8-minute overrun. 9:45 to 10 p.m. Mina Shirakawa versus Julia Hart with picture-in-picture. And the post-match with Tony Storm. 495,000 viewers.
Wow.
8-minute overrun. The Young Bucks, Death Riders, The Ops, Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale, Prince Nana, Gabe Kidd Live Angle. 455,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. They lost 40,000 people on the overrun with their big feature match for the pay-per-view. So that they lost 259,000 viewers in the course of the program. They started with 714, ended up with 455. That's 40% of the audience, approximately, that they started with, that they ended up with by the time the thing was over. And if we did the deal where we took out the first quarter number and we took out the overrun number to get their real viewership, that might help them this time. I think
that's crazy. Yeah, that's true.
Because the overrun used to artificially inflate the number. Now it's dragging it down.
Well, again, this doesn't include Max.
No, because MJF was watching another program too.
I don't mean as a Nielsen viewer. I mean it doesn't count the gigantic streaming numbers with Max.
Yet millions and millions of people on Max are, because it's the younger generation. It's what's hip with the cool kids and the hep cats. All righty, well, you know what the next program is that we're going to do. It's yours, and we're going to talk about Saturday night's main event and Double or Nothing. We know we're betting on nothing rather than double, and plus whatever else crazy stuff goes on in the world of wrestling over the next few days.
Yeah, something's got to happen. Tony Khan's been kind of quiet. He hasn't twerped off lately. Something's got to happen.
Well, if Tony twerps off, we will be there. Is he twerping or twerking?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not part of that.
Twerking
party.
Tony Khan. That could be a gimmick. He could come out bouncing his butt up and down.
No.
No?
No.
All right. MD hearing, folks, or $150 an ear for a nut or an ear or whatever.